Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Tes. We are at the Mishnah on Daf Kuf Mem Ches Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. It says in the Mishnah, Moina Adam, one may call out, one may list as Urchav, his guest list, as Paroisav, or the list of his delicacies that he's going to serve his guest, basically the menu. So you can call this out, you can read it, mipiv, verbally, avaloi min aksav, but you cannot read it out of a list. Meifes Adam in Banav v'bnei beis al shulchan. One may conduct lotteries amongst the members of his household to go ahead and distribute through the lotteries the portions of food. Ubavad shlei skaven, provided that he doesn't have any intention. Lasos monig doilo keneged monig tanam. All the portions are even portions. He cannot go ahead and distribute portions which are uneven. There's a monig doilo, a large portion for one person, and a monig tana for the other. The Gemara will explain the background of all these halachas. Finally, says the Mishnah, matilin chaloshim malakochim. They may go ahead and conduct these lotteries to distribute the portions of the kachim of the karbanis to the kohanim b'yamtiv, avaloi al manos, but not on manos. Manos means portions. The Gemara explains, referring to distributing the portions of the karbanis which are already brought before yamtiv, when they had a chance to do it prior to yamtiv. Therefore, they cannot conduct this procedure regarding those karbanis. It could only be done to the karbanis of yamtiv itself. The Gemara will go into this. Let's see Rashi. 10 lines from the bottom, beginning of the words Masnisin. Paparoisav, this is the list of his delicacies, meaning ma'adanim, avaloi min aksav. So you could read these things simply min hapeh, verbally, but not out of a written list. Im kasav mer Shabbos, if he had written before Shabbos, kach v'kach urchim, these are so many guests, ploni zimanti, this and this person I have invited. So you can't read this. Why did he write it? Kadei shel yishkechem, so he doesn't forget them. Lo yikra bo'isek sav Shabbos. He may not read that list on Shabbos. The Gemara and Farish time, but the Gemara will give us the reason. The Mishnah continued regarding allocating the portions of food to the members of his household using a lottery. Meifis, says Rashi Lashon payis. It's a term relating to lottery. Matil payis, he throws a lottery lechelik mimagia kol mana mimana, to ascertain each portion who it belongs to. Ubavashle iskavan lasos sheyu amonis shavos. All portions must be even. V'lo achas gedoy v'achas katana, and they shouldn't be uneven with one being larger than the other. Lis gois bigdoyla zercha pial girl, that the one who wins the lottery to win the larger portion will get the larger portion. And the one that loses out through the lottery to get the small portion will only receive a smaller portion. That can't be done. The Gemara and Farish time, and the Gemara give us the reason for this. The Mishnah concluded regarding karbanos, which they would distribute using these gorelos. Chaloshim is gorelos, ala kachim, to distribute and allot the portions of the karbanos amongst the kohanim. Avalei al manos, the Gemara mefarish. Continues the Gemara on the Kuf Mem Tes Amud Aleph on top. So the Mishnah began. One can read his guest lists. He can read his menu. Make sure don't do it from a written list. My time, why not? Rav Vivi Amar Gezer Sham Yimchak. There's a concern that he might go and erase some information from that list. Reading from a list might lead him to go ahead and read shtarei diotis, these business documents, which one may not read on Shabbos. My binayu. Is there any difference between these two approaches? Is there any halachic ramification? The difference is the kasav akoisel umidli, that he wrote the list up on a wall. Umidli, it's suspended high up in the air. It's inaccessible to him right now. He's not going to come to erase it. By the time he climbs up there to erase it, he's going to remember that it's Shabbos. So Lemanda Amar, according to the view that the concern is Shema Yimchaik, that he might erase some information. Loichashin, in this case, is no concern because it's high up in the air. Lemanda Amar, however, according to the other view, Shema Yikra, this might lead him to read documents. Even in this case, Chayshinan, we're concerned, therefore he should not read from that written list, even high up on the wall. Let's take a look at Rashi inside. On the top of the Amud, beginning of the words Gemara, my timer. Why? Why avaloi min aksav? Why cannot read from a written list? Shema yimchak min ha'orchen. He might go and erase from those guests. Why? Shiur shleichen lem kol tzorcham. He realizes that, look, I didn't prepare properly, adequately for all those guests. He'll have regrets that he invited too many guests. And this will lead him to erase from that list. So the servant doesn't invite them to the meal. Continues the Gemara with the other reason of Shtore Diotes, explains Rashi, Kol Hani. Whenever we speak about a concern that a person might be led into reading Shtore Hadiotes, documents of lay people, what that means is Shal Mekach Hamemka Ka'amar means business documents. The Gemara says the difference is between the two approaches. In the case of the Kasav Minyana, he wrote the list up akoisla on a wall b'joy using ink, in which case technically it can be erased. However, it's inaccessible. Immediately it's up high in the air. He doesn't reach there to erase it, and therefore there's no concern that he's going to be tempted to erase. So according to this view, it's mutter. According to the other approach, the concern is this might lead him to read business documents, even if it's up high in the air. He may not do so on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Ulamado Amar, Shema Yimchak. Now, according to the view that the concern is that he might erase, fine. So if it's high up on the wall, he won't come to erase. But what about the other concern? Neicha Shema Yikra. Why aren't we concerned that this might lead him to read Shtore Hadiotes? That's number one. Number two, Vesu, in addition, is that the case? That when something is high up in the air, we don't apply a gzeira on concern of erasure? Meaning, even though practically speaking it's difficult, and the concern doesn't really apply, but we do find that the Chachamim generally applied their concerns and their isurim in very broad terms and didn't necessarily differentiate between specific circumstances and practicalities. They wanted to avoid confusion and all kinds of mistakes, and therefore they broadly applied the gzeris. So even in the case where, practically speaking, there is no real concern that he's going to erase it, nevertheless the Chachamim seem to have applied the gzera even in this case. So even according to the view that the concern is erasure, even when it's high up on the wall, we should apply that isser. Again, says the Gemara Vesu, in addition, we're not concerned about erasing about Tnan. There's a gerus about Tnan. We go into the Mishnah. A person on Shabbos should not read in front of a lamp for concern that he might tip the lamp. So when the oil burns down till almost the bottom, and he sees a flame about to go out, he's going to tip it. So the olden lamp need to be tipped towards the end of its burning, so that the oil would get closer will level off closer to the wick area, to the flame, and keep it going. So there's a concern of Shemayata, which is a malach on Shabbos. Therefore, you should refrain from reading in front of a lamp. V'amar Rabba, afilu gavoya shtei kaimos. Even in the case where it appears that there's no concern of him reaching out to tip that lamp, even if it's high up, gavoya shtei kaimos. So kaima is the height of a person. Even if it's high up, at a height of a double height of a person. Afilu gavoya shtei mardois, double height of a mardei. A mardei is this rod used to drive the animals. So it's very high up. Double the height of this mardei. Afilu asura bottom. Even if it's 10 stories high, lo yikro should not read. Apparently the Chachamim, when they applied the gzera, they didn't differentiate. And it wasn't dependent on the specific practicality of each individual situation. Says the Gemara, okay, so we have to look for another nafkamina between the two reasons why one may not read from a written list on Shabbos. Ella, rather, ike benayu, the difference would be the difference between the approach of Shema Yimchak and the approach of Shema Yikro B'Shtar Adyotis is as follows. The Kosav HaKois L'Mitzi. It was written, he wrote his list on a wall, Umitzi, and it's low down, it's accessible. Laman de Omar, according to the view that holds that the reason for the Isser is Shema Yimchak, we're concerned that he might erase. Chayshina, in this case, we're concerned that he might erase. Laman de Omar, according to the other approach, that the concern is Shema Yikra, he might go ahead and read the business documents on Shabbos, like Chayshina. In this case, we're not concerned. Why? Because it's written on a wall. Guda, something written on a wall. Bishtara was something written in a document. Loy michlef, a wall and a piece of paper, a piece of parchment. It's not something which is interchangeable. So even if he can read off a wall, this will not lead him to read a document. So according to that approach, it would be mutter in a case of a list written on a wall. Says the Gemara, one second. What about in the reverse? According to the view that the concern is that he might go ahead and read documents. So you say a wall is very dissimilar to the shtar, and there's no concern of one leading to the next. But what about the other concern? Why doesn't Abaye concern himself with the gzera, with the concern of mechika? He's going to go erase something on that wall. Ella says, rather, you know what the nafkamina here is. You know what the halachic ramification between both approaches will be as follows. The chayik, he engraved his list atavla on a board, van pinkas, or on a pad. This pad was the thing filled with wax, in which they would engrave in the wax. So it wasn't written, rather it was engraved. According to Rabbevi, who holds that the gzeira is, the concern is perhaps he's going to erase. In this case, we're not concerned. Why? Because erasing something which was engraved is an extensive activity. By the time he gets around to it, he's going to realize that it's Shabbos. He won't come to do it. So there's no concern of reading a guest list or a menu off this engraved board or pad. However, according to Abaye, who maintains that the concern is that this might lead him to read the Shtorei Hedyotis. In the case of a pad or a board where concerned, this might lead to that. Therefore, it would be us. Says more. Now we're going to go back. According to the Shita, that the concern is about erasing, where in the case of a tablet or a pad, he's not going to do that. Okay, you took care of erasing. But why aren't we concerned about this leading him to read documents? Perhaps you'll say, Tavlo Pinkas, a board or a pad, is not confused with stories, with documents. So, if we allow him to read off the tablet, this won't lead him to read a business document. V'atanya, says the Gemara, but we learned in a Brisa, one may read his guests, how many he's going to place inside in a more respectable area. So you can read the names of the people he's going to seat over there, and who he's going to seat in the exterior zone, the less respected people. And how many servings, how many dishes he's going to serve them, he's going to place before them. So you can read these lists from a list which is written on a wall. But you can't read it from this list which is recorded on a tavla, on this board, or pinkas, on this pad. It says, well, let's analyze. The Brisa differentiates between a list which is recorded on a wall in contrast to the one recorded on the tablet or board. Hey Chidami, what are we speaking about? Are we speaking where the list was written using ink, which can be erased? If so, what difference does it make if this list was recorded on the wall where it can be erased, or on a tablet or on a pad where that ink can be erased? There's a concern of Shama Yimchayk. Why do we differentiate between one case and the other? Elalav, apparently we're speaking about the chayik, that it was engraved. In which case there's no concern of mechika, as we discussed earlier, because disrupting something which was engraved is a more extensive activity, in which case a person won't come to do it on Shabbos. By the time he gets around to it, he will recall that it's Shabbos. So there's no concern of mechika here. What is left? A concern that this might lead him to read business documents. And we see clearly that the Brisa says, well, you can only read it off the wall, because a wall is so dissimilar to a document. One can read off a wall. We cannot read it off the tablet or this pad. So we see that indeed a pad and a tablet is considered to be similar or enough to ordinary business documents. Allowing this will lead to reading that. So how do you explain why you would allow reading off a tablet or pad on Shabbos? What about the concern that it might lead to reading business documents? Says Ella, rather, let's go back to what we said earlier. Our first proposal, we were looking for an afkamina, a difference, a halachic ramification between both approaches. Rav Bibi's approach, that the concern of the Mishnah is, don't read from something written because you might erase, as opposed to Abaye, who proposed a different reason. A gzeir, he might read business documents. You know what the difference would be? Says the Gemara, Ella La'olam de kasav ha'kois l'midli. Apparently he was speaking that he wrote on a wall high up in the air, inaccessible. In which case, there's no concern about shtorei hedyotis. Why? Because as we said, a person will differentiate very clearly between something on a wall and something on a paper. A wall and a document are so dissimilar, there's no reason to think that reading one will result in reading the other one. So Abaye, who says that the gzeira is mishum shtorei hedyotis, he maintains there's no concern here. It's on a wall, it will not lead him to read documents. As opposed to Rav Bibi, who said the gzeira is he might erase. Rav Bibi holds, fine, there's no concern here about documents because it's a wall. Nevertheless, there's a concern that he might erase. Now, what are we speaking? In a case where it's written high up in the air, it's inaccessible. It takes time to climb up there. Nevertheless, Rav Bibi holds that despite the fact that, practically speaking, there's no real concern of erasing, the Chachamim applied the gzeira universally. A broad application. They didn't differentiate between scenarios. Even if it's high up and inaccessible, the Chachamim made a loy plug, don't differentiate. There's an isser, there's a concern of Shama Yimchik. So this is in contrast with Abaye, who although technically, theoretically speaking, agrees that there's a concern of erasing, but he holds, since it's high up in the air, I don't propose a concern here because it's inaccessible. The Chacham did differentiate between scenarios. If it's not practically a concern, I'm not concerned in this situation. So that's the nafkamina here. According to Rav Bibi, he holds the Chacham broadly applied the gzeira, even if it's inaccessible, it's written high up on the wall, there's an isser shama yimchik. Whereas Abaye holds, practically speaking, there's no concern of mechika in this case because it's inaccessible. And regarding shtorei hedyotis, this won't lead him to read those things because it's a wall. A wall is similar to a document. Let's see the Gemara again. Ella, rather, la'olam, truthfully was speaking the kasav ha'kosh l'midli. He wrote up on a wall, up high in the air, the kakashilach. And regarding your original question, the Rabbah, we brought a halacha in the name of Rabbah regarding reading in front of a lamp, that even when it's impractical, that he will tip it, there is a gzeira, there's issa d'Rabbana. So how can you say that this can be mutter since it's inaccessible? The Rabbah Tanoi, this concept of Rabbah, that the Chacham broadly applied the gzeira, regardless of the individual circumstances, is actually based on a machlekes Tanoi. In which case, the result will be that Abaye does not hold of this svara. Abaye concurs with the shita that the Chachamim were very specific about the application of the gzeros, and in this case, when the writing is high up and inaccessible, there is no gzera. So what do we find in Machlekes Tanoim in this regard? The Sanis learns in the Brayso. Moina Adam es Urchav, one may read the guest list, Ves Paparoisav, and the man Yumi Piv, using his mouth, Avaloy min aksav, but not from something written. Rabbi Acha Mater, Miksav Shal Gabe HaKoisel. Rabbi Acha allows reading from something recorded on a wall. Analyzes the Gemara. Hey Chidami, what are we speaking? Ilay Mediksiv Mitasa. Are we speaking where the list is on this wall, low down and accessible to him to erase? Lecha Shama Yimchik. Why aren't we concerned that he'll be tempted to erase something? El Alav apparently was speaking. The Kasavu Midli, he wrote it, and it's high up and inaccessible. And the Tanakama says, no way, he can't read that Ksav, despite the fact that, practically speaking, there's no concern of erasure because he holds that Chacham applied the Gzera wall to wall. They broadly applied it without differentiating. Whereas Rabbi Acha holds, you can read it because In this specific case, there's no concern of a mechika. So apparently Rav Acha holds, the Chum did differentiate between one situation and the other, or Shmamina. And we hear from this, the Rabba Tanoi Shmamina, the concept, which was stated by Rabba, that the Chacham universally applied the Gzeres is actually based on Machlekes Tanoi Shmamina. Indeed, we hear from here. And in conclusion, that will be the difference between Rav Bivi and Abaye, whether or not the Chacham applied the Gzer universally in a case where, for instance, the list is high up in the air. According to Rav Bibi, there is a concern of mechika there as well. According to Abaye, not. Continues the Gemara, we find a similar machlekes elsewhere. V'hani tanoi, these tanoim who have a disagreement regarding this concept, k'hani tanoi are compatible with another machlekes tanoim, the sanya, as we learned in the Bryce. Ein royin b'mar b'Shabbos. Women are using a mirror on Shabbos for concern that perhaps they'll see some loose hair at a place and will be tempted to trim them. Rameh allows using a mirror which is affixed to the wall. Explains the Gemara. What is the difference between this? Why are you allowing the mirror which is affixed to the wall? Because by the time he gets around to bringing his tools, his scissors, midker, he will recall that it's Shabbos and he won't do the malacha. If so, sheina kavur nami. When the mirror is portable and not fixed to the wall, there as well, by the time he gets around to bringing his scissors, midkar, who remember that it's Shabbos. So why is there a difference between one and the other? Says the Gemara, Hacha. You know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about a metal mirror, in which case the mirror itself can be used as a tool to snip off his loose hair. As he explained, the Omar of Nachman, Omar Rabba Ravo, why did the Chacham say Mar Shel Mateches Asura? One may not use a metal mirror on Shabbos. Pneisha Adam Osli Lahasher Ba. A person is accustomed to using this mirror Lahasher Ba to snip off, to trim with it Nimenam Dildon, some loose hair that are out of place. And therefore, the concern is regarding using the actual mirror itself as a snipping tool. So we see very clearly that, despite the fact that there's a concern, Rameya says, well, we differentiate. Where it's practically a concern, for instance, a mobile, a portable mirror, which you can use for a snipping tool, there's a concern. Whereas a mirror which is affixed to the wall, it's kavur b'kaisel, there's no concern there. They want to use it as a scissor. Therefore, we differentiate between situations. As opposed to Tanakam, who says, well, the Chacham applied Gzera, universally we don't differentiate between one case and the other. So in summary, getting back to the Mishnah, which told us one may not read a guest list or a menu list from a written list. The Gemara gave us two reasons. One is he might erase. One is that this might lead him to reading business documents. And the Gemara concluded as follows. When the list is written on a wall, there's a concern about erasing. There's no concern this might lead him to read documents because a wall is so dissimilar to a document. Regarding chakika, when it's engraved in something, in this case there's no concern about erasing, but there is a concern this might lead him to read documents. So for instance, if it was engraved in a pad or a notebook, then this might lead him to read business documents. The Gemara concluded that the nafkamina between Rav Bibi and Abaye is as follows. When it's written up on a wall, high up and inaccessible, Rav Bibi says there's a concern of shamayim chayik, but the Chacham did not differentiate between one case and the other. According to Abaye, we don't apply the Gzera here because it's inaccessible, it's impractical. There's no real concern of erasing. And certainly, there's no concern this might lead him to read stories. As we said earlier, a wall and a document are not interchangeable. Continues the Gemara. Tana Rabbanon, we learned in the Brayse, Ksava Mahalach Tachas Atzura. This writing, this description, these words which are underneath a tzura, a form of an animal, some type of artistic depiction of an animal, noise, or underneath a artistic depiction of some type of scene of people and wars. So these titles and these descriptions also lekroisa b'Shabbos, who might not read it on Shabbos, Rashi says, might lead him to read business documents. V'duyukna atzma, and this artist depiction itself, Even during a weekday, one may not concentrate on it. Don't turn to alilim. My Talmuda, how do we learn it from this pasuk? Don't turn to that which is within your das. Rashi says, Medas levavchem v'chalal shalachem, and the emptiness of your heart. Tosis actually learns that we're speaking about something which is drawn and designated for Avodah Zarah. The Meiri actually learns a little different. He says a person is not meant to overly concentrate on works of art which were created by human being, lest it divert a person's mind and heart from the beauty and intricacy of Hashem's creation and wondrous world. Continues the Gemara, Mephis Adam in Bonav. Incidentally, Rav David Feinstein once told me regarding reading material on Shabbos that, halachically speaking, anything which is considered informative or educational may be read on Shabbos, as opposed to something which is really meaningless, like comics, etc., which should not be read on Shabbos. Continues the Gemara, Mephis Adam and Bonav. The Mishnah says one may go ahead and throw a lottery amongst the members of his household to apportion the manos, the different portions of food. So he may go ahead and do it and distribute it to the members of his household. And we have an inference. This can only be done with his family, but not with strangers. In Bonav, in Beisa, he can do it with his family. But with strangers not. My time, what's wrong with going ahead and distributing portions among strangers? For instance, if you have a group of people who are partners, they can't go ahead and do this on Shabbos or Yom Tov. My time, why? If you have a group of people who are inflexible, they are makbid, they're very particular, on each other, meaning they insist on apportioning their lots, their portions, their food with precision and exactness. They can't do it on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Why? It can come to transgress midah because they can go and measure things properly, mishum mishkal, weighing, or mishum minyan, on account of counting, which are things one is not meant to do on Yom Tov. These are weekday activities. Some explain this might bring him to do business transactions. So these people who are very exact in their divvying of their portions, they come to count and to measure and to weigh. On account of lending and returning the loan on Yom Tov, because he gets a bit more, he owes him back, and it's a whole business transaction, as we learned. One may not lend and return a loan on Yom Tov. Rashi says the Gzera he might write. So these Bnei Chabura, who are very particular and makpid, are not meant to divvy their portions, appropriate their lots, their manos of food on Yom Tov, because it can lead to all these concerns. One more concern, according to Beisil, there's a concern of ribis. Why? Because if one fellow gets more than the other, so it's like he's borrowing, and then the next time when he returns, so for the object that he returns is actually worth more than when he received it, so he returns some meat which went up in value. This is a concern of ribis. So this can't be done with strangers. However, when it comes to members of one's household, there's no concern. Why? Says the Mori, if this is the case, Banav bnei Beisai Nami, even amongst the members of his household, why are we not concerned about ribis and all these other concerns? Says the Gemara, Banav bnei Beisai, his children, the members of his household. Haini time. The reason is because Rav Yidam Arav. The Amar Rav Yidam Arav. Muta lahavos Banav bnei Beisai ribis. One may loan the members of his family with ribis. He gives them a smaller amount and asks more in return. Why? Kedei iman tam ribas. He's doing it to give them a taste, a bitter taste. What it means to have to pay interest, to have them lose their appetite for it, so they don't be tempted when they grow up to do ribis with others. Let's take a look at Rashi. Second line from the top, Banov b'nei Beisai Nami. So this was the kasha of the Gemara. If there are so many concerns with divvying up portions, what about family members? Leichash l'ribis v'chol hani. Let's be concerned about ribis and all the other concerns. The Gemara answered, in the name of Rav Yidam Arav, one may do ribbis with his family, lahalvis mishaloi, to lend from his own possession, banav b'nei beis are smuchim al shulchanai, who are dependent on him, the kivan da'kol mishaloi, since all is his, ain't kan ribbis, no ribbis. So he's giving them his own thing, he's taking back his own thing, there's nothing of theirs that is being repaid. Why is he doing it? La'ti'imon ta'am ribbis, to give them the flavor, the taste. Sheyedu kamakasha. They should realize and experience the difficulty of ribbis. So the point here is that there's no concern since it's all his anyway. Alma apparently given mishaloyu, since it's all his, ain't kan issa ribbis. There's no issa ribbis. V'hilkach. And likewise, gabe mido mishkol minyan nami, even regarding those other concerns of measuring and weighing and counting, lav kpedu. It's not an account of particularity of kpeda, ela shvoisam leikina. He's simply trying to even them out, give them all equal portions. The Gemara says one is not meant to differentiate. Loilam al yishane ben abonim. We learned that earlier in Masechus Shabbos. One is meant to treat all his children equally with fairness. That's why he's doing it. There's no business going on here. There's no exchange. There's no lending and borrowing. He's simply doing it to be fair and square. So therefore, it doesn't appear like weekly activities, like business transactions. There's no concern. He's taking his own thing and distributing it to his family. Let's get back to the Gemara. So that explains the halacha of the Mishnah, that one can throw lotteries and divvy up the portions of food amongst the members of his family, but not among strangers. Says the Gemara, but what about the next clause in the Mishnah? He can only do it if there are even portions, but not if there are uneven portions. Why not? If that's the case, that it's all his anyway. Manak doila, kineged manak tananami. Even when one portion is larger in size than the other, one is a manak doila, one is a manak tana. Why can't he do that? Why can't he take the larger portion, give it to one son, the small to the other son? And actually, the Gemara soon will tell us what can be a concern when we're speaking about uneven portions. The concern is mishum kovya. The Gemara will say it's a type of gambling, because when people get together and they throw lotteries with uneven portions, and one will receive the larger, one the smaller. So it's a form of gambling. He's giving up these rights to the larger portion because he really thought initially he's going to receive the larger portion. So it's something which is not really early to do so. He's not giving it up out of free will. It's something which he gambled upon. He figured he's going to end up winning the larger portion. So one may not engage in these activities. It says the Bible, if we're speaking about family members, in any case, it's the father's property which is being distributed. So let him do what he wants. Why can't he distribute it as he sees fit? Larger to this one, small to this one. Even that can be done. There's no concern of gambling. It's not theirs to begin with. Says you're right. This clause of the Mishnah, this restriction regarding uneven portion, doesn't apply to members of a household. We must learn the Mishnah as though it's missing some words. This is how we're meant to learn the Mishnah. The Mishnah begins, Meifis Adam in Bonav Vibnei Beis Ala Shulchan. One may distribute his portions using a lottery amongst the members of his household. Even a large portion with a small portion, my time, why? As Rav Rav told us that one may do ribbis with the members of his household, as we learned earlier, to give them the bitter taste of ribbis. Likewise, here, he's distributing uneven portions to give them the feeling and the taste of gambling, the bitter taste of gambling, in which case they'll be dissuaded from conducting these activities when they grow older. So this is allowed. In Bonav, this is applied to members of one's household. But one cannot go ahead and do this amongst strangers, as we learned earlier, members of this group which are makpidim zemze, which are very particular and exacting with each other. They can't go ahead and distribute on Shabbos and Yom Tov their portions. This may lead them to minyan and mishkal and midah, etc. So even portions they can't distribute. My time, as we learned earlier, the concerns stated above. And the Mishnah continues. What about uneven portions? Manak doila kineged manak tana? That cannot even be done during an ordinary weekday. Apachoil la'acherim asar. Regarding strangers, this group who are makpid on each other, they can't even do this during an ordinary weekday. Why? My time mishum kovya, because it's a form of gambling. So he's not willingly giving up the larger portion. He's simply doing it since he figured he'll get the larger portion. So it's not really an honest way of dealing. It's similar to stealing. Therefore, that cannot be done even during chayil, during weekday, if they are distributing uneven portions. So in summary, regarding distributing portions of food, if they're even portions, manei Shabbos, that's taking place on Shabbos, amongst members of one's household, there's no concern. Amongst strangers who are makbid with each other, there's a concern, there's an isser. The Gemara gives us a whole list of midah, mishkal, measuring, weighing, counting, lending, returning a load, and the Gemara added even ribbis. Regarding uneven portions, and the Gemara concluded, even during an ordinary weekday, this could be a concern among strangers, which are makbid zeh on account of kubya, of gambling, as opposed to amongst the members of one's family, one's household. There's no concern whatsoever, it all belongs to him in any case. Continues the Gemara. Matil and Chaloshim, the Mishnah concluded that the Kohanim would conduct their lotteries to distribute the allotment of the karbanes, to divvy up the portions amongst the Kohanim. And the Mishnah says they can do it biyamtiv avaloi ala monos. They can't do it on monos. Monos means the portions. So what does the Mishnah mean? My avaloi ala monos. What does this mean? Omar Rabbi Yaakov Breid Bas Yaakov, he was the son of the daughter of Yaakov. He explained. Avaloi ala monos shel chayil biyamtiv. The Mishnah doesn't allow doing this procedure, this method, regarding karbanos of chayil, weekday karbanos, which were already available for distribution yesterday. So since the lottery could have been done yesterday, we can't do that on Yom Tov. As we learned earlier, there's a concern when it comes to divvying amongst people who are makbid on each other. So apparently the Chacham suspended that concern when it comes to karbanos which were brought today. We have no alternative. We have no viable choice. However, when it comes to karbanos which were available yesterday for distribution, the Chacham did not allow applying the method of lottery and distributing it on Yom Tov. Says Pshita, why would I think otherwise? Of course, since you could have done it yesterday, there's no reason for the Chacham to be matir, divvying it up on Yom Tov. Says Gemara Ma'od Atem, perhaps I would think, since the pasuk says, Va'amcha kimerivei kohen, your nation are like these Kohanim who are Bali Meriva, Rashi says. People who tend to fight. The Gemara in Baba Basra actually says that they are kaptanim. The Kohanim were born with this inborn, innate nature of having kpeda, being particular. It can lead to fighting. So since the Kohanim have this tendency, perhaps it's very important for them to be allowed to divvy it up properly, afilu monis de chol nami, perhaps even when it comes to portions of karbanos, of weekday karbanos, perhaps the Chachamim would suspend their Isser and allow it to be done on Yom Tov. Kamash Shmala, no, this was not allowed. Continues the Gemara of Amar Yaakov Breid Bas Yaakov. He said another thing. Kol shechaver nenesh al yadoi. Whenever a person was wronged by his friend, now his friend deserves punishment, and he brings that punishment about to his friend. He causes it. For instance, the Farshim say he davens. So he brings about the retribution to his friend. Kol shechavere nenesh al yadai. Whoever's friend receives an einish through him, he's a catalyst for that punishment. They don't bring him into the partition with Hashem. Minalan, how do we know this? Is it because it says Mishum Dechsiv Vayomer Hashem announced Mi Yifates Achav? Who is going to convince Achav v'yal v'yipol b'Ramez Gilad that he should go up and fall and die in Ramez Gilad? Vayomer Zebekoi, so one force, a spirit or malach said, I'm going to convince him in this manner. V'zeh Omar Bechoi, and another force, another spirit said, I'm going to convince him in a different manner. Vayetzia Ruach. This particular specific Ruach spirit came out, Vayamed Ifnei Hashem, and stood before Hashem. Vayomer announced, Ani afatenu, I'm going to convince him. Vayomer, and he said, Eitzei vayisi Ruach Sheker v'fikol Naviyav, I'm going to present myself as a false spirit in the mouths of all his Achav's false prophets. I'm going to lead them to falsify their prophecies and tell him to go up to this place, which eventually will lead to his death. Vayomer, Hashem told him, Tifte v'gam tuchal. Hashem told him, fine, tefata, go convince him, and you will be successful. Say va'asei chen. Go out and do this. Va'amrinan, and we learned, my ruach. Who was this? What's the identity? Who was this ruach of Rabbi Yochanan? The ruach shel noves. This was the spirit of noves who was actually killed by Achav, and now he was coming back to take revenge and to bring him punishment. Who might say, what does the pasuk mean by say Amarav Hashem told him, go out of my partition. So we see that since he was going to bring about the downfall and the punishment of Achav, he's a catalyst and a conduit for that einish, go out of my partition. Vidilma says the one, perhaps it's not based on this reason. There's another reason altogether. Vidilma, perhaps Hasam, I know time. The reason there is Tachsiv lo doivesh karim lo yikain. One who speaks falsehood cannot stand before me, cannot sustain before me. So since he was involved in falsehood, that is the reason for him to leave the mechitza. Ella rather mehacha. This is the proof. This is the pasuk speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, Rosh Savata kolain mechavoid. You've been satiated with kolain, with humiliation, with busha, with embarrassment. Mikavish segam ata be'oral. Drink you and the oral. So the Gemara learns as follows: Savata kolain mechavoid zed Nebuchadnezzar. So he's going to be satiated, filled with humiliation and embarrassment. Segam ata be'oral. Drink not only you but also the oral. Who is that? Zed Tzidkiah. This is Tzidkiah. As Rashi explains that Nebuchadnezzar would engage himself in Mishka Zuchor, having relations with the men there, with the kings, and as the Gemara soon will explain, one of them was the king of Yisrael, Tzidkiah. So not only would Nebuchadnezzar incur punishment, but also Tzidkiah, because since Nebuchadnezzar sinned with Tzidkiah, Tzidkiah caused the einish of Nebuchadnezzar somehow, and therefore he also received punishment. So we see that Tzidkiah is also responsible, liable for the einish of Nebuchadnezzar. Says in 1 second, Chada, one thing, the Kulikrab and Nebuchadnezzar ksiv. The entire pasuk is actually referring to Nebuchadnezzar. There's no mention of Tzidkiah. V'oid, in addition, Tzidkiah tzadika, mayahavali lamevat. Tzidkiah, the tzaddik. What alternative did he have? It wasn't his fault. Why is he held responsible? What could he have done? What could he have done to prevent from the Avera? So he's not at fault. Why would you consider him responsible for the einish, which was befalling Nebuchadnezzar? The Omar of Yudam Arav, Bishosh Bikesh Isay Rasha, Lasis Loitzet Tzadikach. At the moment that this Rasha wanted to, due to this tzaddik Tzidkiah, he wanted to approach him and engage him in Avera, V'chulu. The Gemara would describe that his Erla skin actually grew and he became very disgusting looking. Nebuchadnezzar. Explains Rashi, apparently since we refer to Tzidkiah as a tzaddik here, he's perfectly righteous. He's not responsible in any way. He's not held accountable in any way for the Avera and the einish which befell Nebuchadnezzar. So apparently our interpretation of this pasuk is wrong. When the pasuk says Segam ata v'hei arel, that's the exact nekuda de v'hei arel. It's not referring to v'hei arel also Tzidkiah. It means v'hei arel lashon nifal. It's all speaking about Nebuchadnezzar. You will become arla. You will become disgusting looking. Only he will be punished, not Tzidkiah. Says the Gemara Elmacha. Rather, we have another proof for the concept that we're trying to prove that if one brings about a punishment to somebody else, he is also held accountable. Elam Yacha from here. Gam Anoish. Let tzaddik loy toiv. When a tzaddik brings about an einish to somebody else, loy toiv, it's not good. And the Gemara says, Ein loy toiv el ra. When loy toiv is said, what does that mean? Ra means bad. And the other pasuk says, Uksiv. Ki loy el chevetz resha'ato. You Hashem are not one who desires resha, wickedness. Lo yagur chara. Ra won't live with you. Tzaddik ata Hashem v'lo yagur b'megur chara. You are a tzaddik Hashem, and in your domain won't live Ra. So the fact that a person brings about an einish on somebody else, that's loy toiv, as we just said. If somebody brings about an einish, it's loy toiv, it's Ra. So he's considered to be a Ra, and he can't live with Hashem. Continues the Gemara. My mashma dai chaloshim. How do we know that the word chaloshim is stated in reference to lotteries? As we discussed earlier, the lashon of the Mishnah, matil chaloshim, referring to throwing lotteries. What do we find that the word chaloshim refers to a lottery? My mashma dai chaloshim lishna de puruhu. What do we find that it's a lashon of a girl? As we find in Megillas Esther, pur is girl. Dechsiv, as it says in the pasuk again regarding the Nebuchadnezzar, when he when he experienced his downfall. How did you fall down from heaven? Hil ben shachar negdat al earth, down to the ground. Choilish al goyim. One who is choilish, he throws lotteries on the goyim. Amar Rabba bar Rafuna Malamed. This teaches us Shayamatal Pur. He would throw a lottery. Al Gedoyle Malchus, on these kings. Leida Eze ben Yoimai, to know which is the specific day, his day, Shal Mishkav Zachar, for this specific king to engage in these relations with Nebuchadnezzar. So the word Choilish here is in reference to throwing a lottery. Uksiv, and it says after the death of Nebuchadnezzar, that all the kings sighed a sigh of relief. Kol Malchi Goyim Kulam Shachvu B'Chabed Ish B'Veisai Amar Rav Yochanan Shenachu B'Mishkav Zachar. So they relaxed and they had a rest from this terrible experience of Mishkav Zachar with Nebuchadnezzar. For Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Yomash Le'Isei Rasha, all the days of that Rasha Nebuchadnezzar, Lo Nimtza Schayk B'Peh Kol Bria. No laughter was found in the mouth of any of the creations. Shenemar Nocha Shakta Kol Haaretz Patz Chorina. So the whole land quieted down and rested and broke out in song. Mechlal, apparently that hashtag up until now, there was no song. One may not stand, be present in the home of Nebuchadnezzar, even nowadays. Shenemar usiirim yirak dusham. Seirim is referring to demons, shadim. They are meant to dance around there. And if a person shows up to this seirim, run away. And he's nullifying the Gzeir of Hashem, who wants specifically to have shadim inhabit this fellow's home. This is going back to the description earlier of Russia, when this Russian Nebuchadnezzar desired to do Lasis Leiset Tzadikach, to do the Avera with Tzadik Tzidkiya. What happened? Nimshach Orlasa, the Orla skin of Nebuchadnezzar, extended Shloish Meis Amma for 300 Amma V'hoya Machazeres Al Kol Masiba Kula, and it was making its rounds amongst all the members of the banquet there. Shanema Savata Kol Mechavoid Segam Ata Orel, and Orel is the gematria Shloish Meis Havi. The word Orel, its numerical value is 300, and that is what the pasuk is describing. Savata Kol Mechavoid. You were satiated and filled with shame and embarrassment as a result of this experience. When this Russian Nebuchadnezzar descended to Gehenna, Rashu, Kol Yerde Gehinnom, all the residents of Gehenna were petrified. Amr, they said, Shema Limsha Aleimu Ba, perhaps he's coming to rule on us as well. Or perhaps he's coming to experience Gehenna with us, to get sick and experience the pain of Gehenna. Which one is it? Is he coming to suffer, or is he coming to rule? Shenemar, as it says, Ki gam ato chuleisa chamaynu eleinu nimshalta. So is it chuleisa, you coming to get sick with us to suffer, or is it nimshalta, to rule? Yatsa sabaskal v'amra, a heavenly voice came out and said, Mimina amta, from whom are you experiencing a pleasantness? Redei Reda v'heshkava es arelim. Go down and lie with the arelim, meaning you can't rule over them. You're going to experience the bitterness of Gehenna with them. The pasuk says, Eich shavas noiges shavsa matheva. This is speaking when Bavel lost its authority. So shavas noiges means the noiges, the tormentor of Bavel, shavas. It ceased to rule. Shavsa matheva. Matheva is referring to Bavel. The Gemara will explain why. Shavsa, it also ceased to have authority and to rule. Amar Bidamara, Shavsa, Umazu, this nation ceased to have authority. Sha'amra, Medoid Vahave. Matheva here is a joint word. Medoid Vahave, they say, measure up your money and your golden coins and bring. So this is Bavel, and they ceased to have the authority and ceased to exist. Because Amri, some have a different interpretation. Matheva here means Sha'amra, who said, Ma'oid, Havi, lots, bring to me lots of money, lots of treasures. Beloi Mida, without measure. Bring limitless amount of supplies and money to me. One more pasuk describing Nebuchadnezzar. He said on himself, V'ravu yatira husfasli. This additional authority was added to me. Amar Bida Marav Yirmei Ba'aba Malami. This teaches us Sherochav al Rizachar. He took a ride on a male lion, the kosher tanin b'roishai, and he tied up this large snake on its head to use as a saddle. L'kayim eshnemar, to fulfill the words of the pasuk, v'gamas chayes hasoda, nosati loy lo'avdoi. Hashem says, also the animals I have given to him, I have granted to serve him. Let's take a look at Rashi on top here. Medoid mois v'din rizah b'havei, so they would announce, bring all its treasures. And Nebuchadnezzar says, v'ravu yisiru usvasli, describes Rashi the context of this pasuk. After Nebuchadnezzar spent 7 years like a behemah, he was reinstated to his kingdom. He would praise himself in this manner. What was this additional authority that he had? Large snake on the head of a lion, like a saddle. So he was granted this immense authority, and as we know, he abused the authority and he suffered a great downfall as a result. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. The Mishnah told us one may read a guest list or a menu simply using his mouth, but not from a written, not from a ksav. The Gemara gives us 2 reasons. Perhaps he'll erase, perhaps this might lead him to read business documents. The Gemara told us if it's on a wall, there's a concern of erasure, but no concern of it being confused with documents. If it's engraved, for instance, on a tablet, there's no concern of erasing, but there is a concern of it leading to reading business documents. If it's written up using ink, up high on a wall, according to one sheet of the Gemara, according to Abibi, there's a concern here as well of erasing, even though practically speaking there's no concern. The Chacham applied their Isser universally without differentiating between circumstances, according to Abayi. Since practically speaking there's no concern that he's going to climb up and erase it, therefore it would be mutter. And certainly there's no concern this might lead him to read documents because a wall is so dissimilar to a document. The Gemara told us that this concept of whether the Chacham applied their Issa universally without taking the practical conditions into consideration is actually Machlekes Tanoim, and it applies to using this metal mirror as well. According to Tanakama, one may not use it under all circumstances. He might use it to snip off hair. According to Rameh, if it's affixed to a wall, in which case there's no concern of using it as a trimmer, there's no Isser. The Gemara continued regarding divvying up portions of food amongst the members of one's household. There's no concern whatsoever. Amongst the Bnei Chabura, which are makpid on each other, very particular, and they need their portions divvied with exactness and precision, then on Shabbos you can't even do it if it's even portions, because it can lead to measuring, counting, weighing, lending, and even ribbis. When there are uneven portions, the Gemara told us even during weekdays they can't do that because it is connected to the Isser of gambling, Mishum Kovya. We learned that Kahanim may divvy up their karbanis using a lottery system, provided these are Yom Tov karbanis, as opposed to karbanis which were available for distribution before Yom Tov. And we concluded that one must make sure not to bring about punishment upon somebody else. This way, he ensures that he will be able to live within the mechitza with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.